I'd like to welcome you all here to the Poetry Room. Those of you online, hello. As always, we are beaming to you from the unceded ancestral homelands of the Ohlone peoples. I want to take a moment to pay our respects to those who had stewarded the land way better than we did, I'll tell you that much. So we're delighted to have Brontez Purnell with us again here in the house, this time celebrating 10 Bridges I've Burnt, a memoir in verse that is produced by our friends at MCD Books. We love what they do over there. Brontez is no stranger to City Lights. In fact, last time Brontez was here, Brontez performed with his band. So the Younger Lovers, and that was down in the main room. That was so much fun. I had a great time. So I think we're gonna have a great time tonight too. Brontez is also the author of 100 Boyfriends, which is a Lambda Award winner. We've got it on display here together with 10 Bridges. He's also a performer, a dancer, a zine maker, and really great musician. So we are delighted to have him in our orbit once again, celebrating this great book. As I said earlier, we're going to be signing. Brontez is going to be inscribing for you. So please come in, have some libations, have a cupcake, get a book signed. So welcome to City Lights.
I'm really fucking nervous, so bear with me. It's my first time. So to kick it off, just to mix things up a bit, I actually wrote two poetry books during quarantine. And there was one I wrote called Diary of Dead Bachelors. So I want to just start with Diary of Dead Bachelors first. Um, Dead Bachelor number 40. And it all came from something as simple as wanting to be loved, said Patricia, an ex Manson girl. And I fucking lost it because we say some version of this every day. And I could have very easily been a Manson girl. We sometimes mislabel ourselves submissive because really it's a spectrum that moves between the shyly brave to those who would offer full contractual surrender to someone who cared enough to attend to the kind of abuse we want, but don't want, but secretly kind of do, if so desired. I have also held this title, submissive, for no other reason than I believed it would be easier if someone else was in control. I could prove my love by following orders. And it takes more strength to be a subject. There are a great many people who will hate you for giving them everything they want. They will hate you when they realize they cannot break you, or when they have realized they have been conned, been sucked so far in the void, too late to realize that you will take the abuse, you will take the abuse, and you will take the abuse until they no longer have the strength to give it. You should clap after everyone. And one more, and then I'll get on to 10 Bridges. Um, Dead Bachelor number 14. Who was the fairest dead bachelor of them all? It could only be Narcissus. Though history tends to distort everything, we now only know the word as someone who is harmful. Keep in mind, in the original myth, Narcissus harmed no one. Y'all know it's a myth, right? I was reading this for these kids in LA and they didn't know it was a myth. Anyway, Narcissus harmed no one, not even himself, actually. In the original myth, all the nymphs of the forest tried to holler at him and he rejected their advances because faggot. Um, and how maybe it has become a bad word for what was not actually a harmful thing. How pleasant it must be to look at one's image for the first time and think, I must be the most beautiful thing that has ever existed in a world where most people suffer from the opposite. Though one could argue believing oneself exceptionally ugly is the same as believing oneself exceptionally beautiful. It is the same amount of time spent staring in the mirror asking, but why me? Also, a great poet once said, be one beautiful or ugly. The general mean is no guarantee of happiness. But we need not sing of longing. Oh, Narcissus, the dead bachelor, who stared at himself so long he became immortal. And only a few of us will be so lucky. Oh, this book is crazy. Um, so, um, how do I explain this one? I was on a bunch of ketamine and I was death scrolling at night, and there was this like screensaver that just showed this like screen of black waves in some ocean. I think it was AI. And so I was like, fuck. I immediately Googled what's the loneliest place on earth, and this place called Point Nemo came up. And it's like to the left of Argentina. And once you are there, the closest humans to you will be the people in the space station. It's a speculative place, but I thought it was cool. Um, I need to catch my breath. Like, I'm used to having a guitar, so it's like talking is like fuck. And I sound really gay. Point Nemo. When the weird sisters ask, when shall we three meet again? In thunder, lightning, or in rain? I know where. The poetics of the void notwithstanding, scientists wager to reason it a pole of inaccessibility. But poetically, you could say, if the earth were flat, it would be the ocean ledge where one would fall off. Though being plotted in the pressurized circumference of the planet does not make its exactitude any more dimensional, all the spaceships are buried there, and though only reachable by water, no sailor has ever dared a journey to Nemo, Latin for no one. Two, oh, honey, you know I'm terrible at taking care of myself. And even when I'm not depressed or high on drugs, how easily 2 a.m. becomes 3 a.m., becomes 5:58 a.m., becomes sunrise. But at no point will you find me caught beneath the landslide. I have been seasick so long, it's become a pleasant feeling. I am a vertigo romantic. How special a feeling where everyone tells me my mind hallucinates violent movement and what is actually stillness. But I think honestly, I feel something deeper. I shit you not. I am the only one who can actually feel the earth hurtling through space. Yes, that must be it. The waves keep on crashing on me for some reason. Three, I want more than what I'm worth is a sailor's prayer, roughly translated, and also, if not tonight, the future, and so on. I'm a sailor on the ocean. I need nothing to keep going. I say these things under my breath. At each transition, I could just as likely be a bit less earnest about it. These mantras are built in the hopes that I stay very close to Earth. I maintain an ill fated pact with staying landlocked when I could just as easily leave my body guilt free, not like death, but in other abstracts. I am one of those people who always wondered what it would be like to sucker punch a close friend mid conversation or toss a drink in their face for no other reason than to see what the effect would be upon impact. But in the spirit of self preservation, I pray into existence the geographic coordinates where leaving my body is an actual physical place you can go and not a perilous occupation. In consulting the oracle of oceanographers, who for all practical reasoning have found the middle point of the deepest nowhere, fatalistic me can only paint in my mind a waterbed of black waves spanning every blurred horizon. I get a flushed feeling of imagining a coffin. I am terrified and suffocating with fear and panic. But if I reach a little deeper, or maybe to the left of this reasoning, I see in other mythologies a certain Zen. Tommy Chen. I had jumped Tommy Chen at the San Francisco Young Gay Poets Luncheon in 2004 because in my youth I struggled with decorum. She had dissed my poetry in the annual newsletter, which I would have forgiven if she had not also had the nerve to be skinnier than me, too. Not that being skinnier than me is any great feat, yet still, that bitch had to die. Oh, the critique in her venomous post about me. It rang to the tune of, well, why should we trust this voice? Meanwhile, her white ass boyfriend, in the same poetry newsletter, mind you, actually published 7 typed rows of the lowercase e and was praised for his devotion to shape, space, and time. First of fucking all, if I really think about it, that is the list of who was both let into and shat all over the club called experimental literature. Why the fuck at this point need we question someone as pure as me about any goddamn thing? And every time someone who isn't a nigga or jazz adjacent, the beatniks, um, critique my work with excessive force, I still basically smile and bear it, but can't turn off the emotional switch that English, regrettably, is my only language. And I am being told a little too often for my liking that I have no real command of it if I am not writing like someone's favorite dead white man. And even more insultingly, like someone's white ass boyfriend. I let these bitches play me like a pit bull in a basement for far too long. My bad mood had started in the morning. I was young and kept late hours. I never smelled the fire burning. But on my way to the luncheon, the entire warehouse of the near homeless had burned. It was word on the street the landlord had did it, and my hooker friend China was sick and standing on the corner and needed money for dope. And Tommy sat in an apartment in the Castro with his poet boyfriend. And it occurred to me that I had always been closer to being homeless than I had ever been to living with a boyfriend in the Castro. This was not Tommy's fault, but I guess I just got tired of feeling like every fault was mine. But if I really think about it, this is not about race. This is not about class. This is about my ego versus this other corny bitches. And sometimes I take great pleasure in reminding people who have hurt me why I am stronger than them. Tommy, my love, I want you to know that I hold space for and respect for our mutual positionality as men of color, and the sisterhood of battling white supremacy in the writing world is what I should have said before I jumped him, but I was speechless. When I did a full frontal tackle and gripped his throat, his white ass boyfriend stayed all the way out of it, of course. And I thought it was a horrible racist trope of like Asian Americans being proficient at martial arts. And so I almost never saw that right hook coming from Tommy that split my front right incisor tooth in half, blood dripping from my gums. And then he hit me again. And now I think I love him. My chokehold lost its economy, and Tommy caught his breath for all of 3 seconds before he charged me. And in a moment of clarity, I mumbled, I mutually give honor and respect to our positionality as men of color, Tommy, before I grabbed the glass pitcher and hit him in the head so hard that to this day I am still banned from the San Francisco Young Gay Poets Luncheon. But in my defense, I had to signify that poetry is still dangerous. Um, okay. So next one is if I had a time machine, I would kill my parents. So goes the question, what would you do if you had a time machine? Of course, the only answer is kill my parents. But I, being in the habit of problematizing every fucking thing, wants to kill the version of my parents that is already dead. The people they were in the 80s and even into the early 90s. I see my mother wilting on the floor, exhausted. She doesn't raise hell with me anymore, not because of any great fear, but simply because she doesn't have the energy anymore. What we call wisdom could easily be called fading of hormonal response. And oh, it's fine. Because now that I'm my parents' age, I understand it all too well. I have an anarchist friend who laments that his mother simply won't go to therapy, and that's bad. But I dare not say that sitting in a room with some white man won't melt away her 60 plus years of muscle memory trauma. Our parents defy therapy. And unlike many of my generation, I am actually sometimes silently impressed at the level of asshole these peoples are. Oh, my father, all he wanted me to do was like pussy and shut the fuck up. I literally only had one job or two, depending on how you look at it. I used to say, why would I marry a woman just to disappoint her? But honestly, my boyfriends tend to be disappointed too. And furthermore, I don't fuck them either. All my father could see was that I grew up with my own room with a color TV, a far cry from him sharing bath water with his 9 siblings. No, he's fine, thought my father, and generationally, he's actually right. Paired against with what he knows of the world, my trauma reads as unremarkable to him, perhaps even common. I'm the reason you're handsome is how he ends a fight. Of course, he lets himself off the hook. And if I really had to deal with the predicament of whose fault my childhood was, all I can say is it took a village. Speaking of which, back to the village empress, my mother. The feminist angst of the 70s and 80s said that women are more than allowed to hate their husbands and bosses, but how did children get off the hook so easily? Hating your children is perfectly feminist. We conclude the trifecta of marriage, house, and imprisonment. True, we didn't ask to be born, but that hardly holds up in court because goddamn if we didn't ask for everything else. My poor mother, all she wanted me to do was shut the fuck up. She didn't even care about me liking pussy. She just wanted the house quiet, a child of divine silence. And I recognize now that in her heart buzzed a migraine and that women must always be tired, and I have inherited yet another feminine trait, exhaustion. I don't really need a time machine, as the earth spinning is one, and being in the collapse of gravity, I too succumb to centrifugal force. The machine of time will do this to all, and I join my mother on the floor. Oh, the years, bloody noses and bones, screaming matches, they all melt to nothing and submit to the laws of earth and memory that time, pressure, and erosion decay everything, even perhaps my anger. And despite all refusal, we remain heroes. Oh, it's really hard to read. In a participatory capitalism, um, this one I wrote because I just kept getting those ads for Ozempic, and part of me was just like, what if I found the courage to be fat? This is offensive, right? And like diabetics can't even get that medicine anymore because everyone's on it. And so I'm just kind of like, yeah, we kept decrying body positivity, and they were like, let's just give them some medicine to shut them up. So they dealt with that easily. Um, this is about my voluptuous body. In a participatory capitalism, I had convinced myself that I should take a more active role in de escalating my high ass blood pressure. In terms of white powders, I am of the ilk who will be done in by sugar, salt, and flour well before cocaine or ketamine. I convinced myself to go buy running shoes I will only use 2 weeks out of the year, 4 if I'm feeling it, but owning them just feels responsible. What is not so responsible is the fact that I have learned to love the self inflicted public humiliation of jogging in public. This stranger saw me jogging, or rather attempting to, and ran up to ask me, Sir, are you okay? Because in all reality, people who jog in public look fucked up. Like, what are they running from? Jogging in public reads as I just want to be liked. I do work on my body to attract members of the same sex when I could just as easily pray for the courage to die alone. Like, come the fuck on already. Sometimes in the gossip columns, when they run the headlines that read list of celebrities that used to be hot but are all now fat as fuck, they praise the ones who eventually loses the most weight, when the competition should actually be about who served both looks the best. I have been 300 pounds. I have been 160 pounds. No matter what weight you start at, people always compliment the loss of the first 10. Oh my God, and wow, and good job, and look at your effort. The loss of weight and the compliments are signifiers that we are participating in capitalism, picking ourselves up by the bootstraps, taking control of the fact that if our bodies are unpleasing to the eyes of the average stranger, it can only mean a moral deficit on the hands of fatty. But also, how are we tracking the belief that skinny people are actually happy? When I was 160 pounds, it was jogging that got me there, but also massive rails of cocaine. People said, "You look amazing." It never occurred to me that you can always respond, "Thank you, I'm suffering." One one true friend took heed of this and called me suspiciously skinny, and the spell was broken. I gained my weight back, and I am back to the hell of jogging around Lake Merritt. People are giving me the nod of a participatory social capitalism, nods that say, "We see that you are fat and trying and worthy of our unsolicited praise." I sink back into my body that sits on these forever aching knees, and it's always been apparent to me that I have always existed in an expanding and shrinking universe. Um, how are we doing on time? Okay, cool. I feel like I'll give you like four more. Cool. This is about the future or the current future. Video phones. Anyway, it's called Mood Board. Bored. I'm always being cheated out of a future I once thought was safe to believe in. I'm not even talking about important shit like the threat of southern Colorado one day becoming a coastal region, or even the episodic rise and fall of the right wing. I tend to only fatalistically worry about ignorant shit, like shit that's so stupid, some shit that you could call headless. For instance, how in the 90s we spent days dreaming of video phones until the day we, or the team of scientists or whatever, but I'm sure it was a collaborative effort, or maybe it was just one person and somebody else took all the credit, whoever the fuck it was, dreamed telephonic cameras into existence. That's when suddenly none of my shitty bitch face friends wanted to answer the phone anymore. Decided that we actually would rather see less of people, that overnight it became our civic duty to answer this future prayer that melted into a promise, that dissolved into a chore, that then wrapped its vicious racket around our necks to the extreme urge to non-commit. And everyone tucked neatly into an unsolicited FaceTime, the world is chock full of oaths of civic promise that if we think about it, we never fully agreed to, if at all. And by answering the phone for unwanted conversation, we are somehow fulfilling our end of the cultural contract, as if we made some unspoken deal with God to always meet the future halfway. I, having no millennial fear, pick up quite feverishly, no matter who is calling, like my life codepended on it. Black girls. I share with female rappers and with the R&B singer girls the crass predicament that if it wasn't for fuck niggas, I would be out of career. And when I say fuck nigga, I mean myself included. 6 albums later, I am still singing the blues. I am wearing a white gardenia in my hair and I am contemplating the void. If not also what I will perform for my third encore. I am gilded. Canon, allow me to reintroduce myself. No side eye of mine will betray the crown I wear. There is so little use in ever trying to cancel the queens of urban radio. For I myself am limit for I myself am living proof that everyone loves a black girl with problems. Um, cool. So, oh, cool. Daddy. Um, I am a bastard and I'm through. I am so very over it. And I'm balancing on the prefaces of my fast hardening arteries and erectile dysfunction. Now the boys flock to me. They want to keep me warm at night, want to hear what wisdom I have scribed on a scroll. Dear boys, I still don't know any goddamn thing, or maybe only one thing for certain. That is, being born with a dick does not make you a man. There are so many more rules to it than that. So many. And as a man, the only real path to peace is that you must shut the fuck up often and with vigor, but keep in your back pocket the knowledge of how to kill a son of a bitch if need be. I have murdered myself in small amounts. So often I've become ectoplasmic, can walk through walls. In my 20s in San Francisco, when me and the other boys were in between father figures, we sometimes had to be fathers for each other, the Lost Boys. I don't think I'll ever have that again. It was electric. In the present day, I come home, hopped up on amphetamines, and try to watch porn. I sometimes see the dead boys, the ones I fathered and the ones who fathered me, live on as porn puppies on the internet. Come Pigs Volume 3 and so on. I'm reminded of the fact that most of the stars we see in the sky are presumably dead before their light reaches us, and the boy I called father will be immortalized as the bottom getting fucked in some anonymous stairwell south of Folsom. I shouldn't have to explain to you that when I say I feel old, I'm not always talking about my body. Sometimes I just mean that my pussy feels old and that my light isn't reaching another galaxy fast enough or will even do so in my lifetime, which by current metrics is conceptually over. I am often reminded by men only 5 or 10 years older than me that I still have a baby face and that my gentrification of the term old man is an insult to the decade they have on me. How blind the older men are to their own lives and mine. It need not take years of wisdom to see that I am a man who is disappearing, and on a molecular level, my black is cracking. Okay, two more, and then wait. There's no Q&A, right? Oh, cool. Awesome. Great. I am decided. I said to my gay uncle when I was 20, the boys don't like me. Not even looking up from the fried chicken he was breading for dinner, he said to me, honey, go look outside that window there and on the sidewalk. You'll see that in San Francisco, even the trash gets picked up once a week. And last one, it's called Northern California. It's about a fun time I had in this very place in 2006. Northern California. One, I wanted radical glamour with a capital G. We stayed in the house so long we now seemed unglamorous. And please let me extend this act of reckless generosity and kidnap you to North Beach and stuff your face with $100 worth of deep fried Cantonese salt and pepper crab. No, like $200 worth. We'll even get the champagne and 40 oysters. It's a beautiful life. Oh, 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 oh. And I just want to be here beside you, have been beside you, have always been by your side. North Beach was not new to us. I remember in 2006, I was mopping jizz at the Lusty Lady, and how after that horrible shift one night, I met you at the poetry reading at City Lights Books. We found a bag of cocaine on the floor, and we thought that poets only drank. And we huffed that bag down in like 3 seconds and went racing through the store and snuck into where we certainly were not supposed to be. And you almost stole the entire box labeled Ferlinghetti Archive of Unpublished Journals 1968 to 1982. And I said, but Marcos, this is deplorably wrong. And we couldn't stop laughing after you said, but like no one's even reading it. Two, the stop start freeze frame kaleidoscopic density of many lives packed into one. I have to think of time in different ways, lest it consume me, but also the line between the past and the present, I have altogether abandoned. Keeping score of it, it's godlike, the poetic practice of shrinking 20 years into a series of days. Monday, I was born. Tuesday, I stepped off BART and into San Francisco Air the first time. Wednesday, the day I asked you to marry me and you refused. Thursday, the day you never woke up, I called and called. Friday, I became immortal because I wanted to remember you forever. Three, Big Sir. We thought that if we escaped for a day, things would feel better, but the winding highway gave us car sickness, and the epic cliffs reminded me that I'm acutely afraid of heights, and Highway 5 is sinking. In undergrad at California State East Bay, my geography teacher said, well, by definition, anything by the water is eroding. The whole thing will fall into the ocean in 100 years. And I am drawn to anything that has finality. And my own Dionysian caterwauling now sounded like death bells I had coexisted with so long, they now seem like the humming of a car engine navigating this highway. I'm reading the map. The driver is a handsome porn director escaping a marriage, and I was cross at the world because no one had asked to marry me. Two harmonious opposites. I remember stopping because the road got so violently curvy, I had to puke. We stopped and climbed to the foot of a sort of bluff called Jigsaw Junction, and before deciding to go home, if California is falling into the ocean a couple of inches each 100 years, then certainly we had enough time to go home and die peacefully. Um, actually, actually, since I got you here, this is gonna be really quick. I just have to do these two more. Sorry. Okay, mature gracefully. I'm tired of pretending to care about being sexy. I fucked up my entire 20s and 30s with this overly utopic goal. This bullshit has gone on long enough. I have reached deep inside myself and found the courage to be ugly, old, and defiantly unwantable. And the rest of you bitches just haven't. Tisk, tisk. And final one, eulogy. Eulogy. Um, on my gravestone, I want printed, she really tried it. Eulogy. The encyclopedia of my scandals and failures will always be a more substantial read than the pamphlet of your success. I bet money, bitch, on who will ring immortal. I will echo with reverb. Thank you.
Those of you online, we got signed copies. Buy some. Those of you in here, have a cupcake. Buy a book. Thank you for joining us.